Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 2, Episode 16, It's the End of the World. Episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened within this episode. So the episode begins with Meredith laying in bed because she has a feeling, and Izzy and George can't get her to leave the bed and are worried they're going to be late for work, so they call in Christina, and Christina comes and Meredith confesses that she has a feeling that she's going to die that day, and she goes over basically how depressed she is over Shepard, her situation with Dr. Shepard, and both of them, and how she had to give up her dog, and how she doesn't have hope or need to go on, and so she has a feeling she's going to die today and she wants to stay in bed, but Christina basically literally kicks her out of the bed. They go into work, they go to greet a trauma ambulance and find out that they don't have a resident that day because they've already run off too and nobody wants to be around them. And they hear this from Bailey, who has come to the hospital, and they're all extremely happy that she's back. George even goes up to her and hugs her, and that is when her water breaks on his shoes, and she's actually there to give birth and has them page Addison to come down to take her to the hospital room. Once she's there, everybody starts to hear that Bailey's back. They go to look in the room, but see that she's having an exam, wait outside, and they're all very happy that Bailey's there, essentially. And she's wanting her husband. So she's the first patient, she's giving birth, and she's going through it, waiting for her husband, who isn't there. Second patient to come in is her husband. On the way to the hospital, Tucker got into a car accident, ends up with head trauma, and has to go into surgery with Derek. And because they don't have anything concrete to tell Bailey and they don't want her to be stressing out, they at first don't tell her. They just, make excuses that they're going to find him. But they do know that he is in surgery. However, later on, they do need to tell Bailey that he is in surgery because his injury is more extensive than they originally thought, and the surgery is going to take a while. And she then decides that she wants to leave the hospital and not have the baby that day because she cannot do it alone. But George helps her with that. Then, of course, we have the main storyline of the episode, which is that a man comes in. He has a sucking chest wound, which Hannah Davies, one of the paramedics, has stuck her hand into. It's later revealed once his wife starts screaming that him and his best friend built a replica of a bazooka from World War II, decided to shoot it. It didn't work at first, so he went in front of it to check what was wrong, ended up getting shot with it, so now he has unexploded ammunition in his chest cavity, and the bomb squad has to be called, and it's a code black. Shepard, like Jarek, because he's working on Tucker's skull, like his brain, and it's open on the table, cannot evacuate or refuses to, because he's not going to be the one who lets Bailey's husband die when she's in labor. And so that complicates things on the floor. Meanwhile, Hannah Davies is left in the room alone while the bomb squad tries to figure out, based on x-rays, where the ammunition is, what type of ammunition it is, how they're going to be able to remove it without it exploding. But then the anesthesiologist decides that he's going to abandon the paramedic, which causes her to basically spiral into panic. Meredith and Christina happen to walk by as they're waiting for the bomb squad and notice that she's in there alone. When they go to check on her, she then starts to have a full-on panic attack that she has to remove her hand. However, her hand is what's holding the ammunition steady, so they worry that it will explode should she remove her hand. Meredith and Christina try to talk her out of the panic attack, but in the end, she does end up removing her hand. However, as she does so, Meredith slips her hand in, which allows the bomb to not explode, but now Meredith is the one who is keeping that ammunition steady and potentially first in line should it explode to become an exploded person. And that is the cliffhanger that this episode leaves us on. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it's now time to rank the episode, and as always, we will be ranking on our mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values to determine the score, and then the personal ranking list, which uses entertainment value to and opinion to score the episode. So now we're going to start with our mostly objective ranking, and first we have our multi-episode supporting character introductions, which are Hannah Davies, the paramedic who has her hand inside of the man's chest cavity, and Dylan Young, who is the main member of the bomb squad who has been interacting with um, all of the surgeons, with Derek trying to get him to leave the room, which he refuses to do, like the OR and the floor, which he refuses to do. Dr. Burke, who he's trying to help make a game plan to try to get this unexploded ammunition out of this guy's body. And then, of course, with Meredith and Christina when they're trying to talk Hannah Davies out of her panic attack. And he is in the room when Meredith takes over, though, again, that was a cliffhanger, so we don't know what he's going to do from there. Next, we have our multi-episode supporting character development, which is to do with Bailey's husband, Tucker, who has gotten into a car accident on the way to the hospital to see his son be born. We then also have another 2 points for the supporting relationship development because Alex and Izzy Izzy has decided that, Christina and Meredith, they're doers, and her and George are more passive, and they have to become doers. Then she notices Alex down on the floor with all of the chaos running around and decides that the best course of action during this code black is to be physically intimate in a storage room with Alex. And so, haha, they have had progression after breaking up due to the cheating scandal. Next, we have the impactful, memorable moment line, etc., which of course is when Meredith puts her hand in the bomb. This is an episode that is very memorable in the series overall. It's actually one that I've been waiting for because I really enjoy it. It's one of those really focused episodes that kind of, like, for example, the only new characters are really the ones surrounding the bomb. Both of the other patients in this case are Bailey and Tucker, who are multi-episode supporting characters or multi-episode or multi-season main character that we already know. So the only people that we're really getting new are specific to this one incident, and the main focus that everything is revolving around really is this one main incident, and the other things are adding drama to this main incident. And I love those types of episodes the best. And like I said, it's one that when you look back at the series, even after like 21 seasons, it still stands out. And that, of course, is worth the 3 points. And then our final positive points are multi-season main character development, which of course is the fact that Bailey has gone into labor, so she's going to have her baby, which is really great because honestly, Bailey is probably my favorite main character that isn't Meredith in the series, but you rarely get to talk about her because she just does her job so well. She doesn't really get into dramas. So it is nice. It's unfortunate that it's with the whole unexploded ammunition drama going on, but it is nice that Bailey gets some development finally, because usually her development is basically the really good scoldings and witty one-liners and then doing her job really well. That's basically what Bailey does, so she doesn't get to be talked about as often. So, anyway, she's having her baby, and that's development, so she finally gets to be mentioned. And then, of course, cliffhanger, Meredith put her hand on the bomb, and that's worth 4 points. I'm giving it 4 points together for those developments. And that brings us to our negatives. So our first negative is the negative messaging or behavior, and this, of course, is Shepard refusing to leave his OR. Now, I understand why. He has a patient, brain flap, like skull flap open on the table, but you're not only risking your own life, you're risking all of the other surgeons' lives, your surgical team's lives, your patient's life, because if that bomb explodes, you're all going to die. And I'm not sure if it's possible and he's just not accepting it, but like, can you not put some sort of like temporary measure in place, maybe move to maybe not a complete OR, but a room that's outside of the evacuation zone so that you can then continue the surgery without risk to the lives of your entire team, yourself, and your patient? Maybe, maybe not, but still, in a serious situation like this, you're just making it more difficult for people who need to do their job, and it is a very serious situation. So I think if you're being told that you need to evacuate, you should do so. Though again, I understand why he doesn't for medical reasons and for the drama of it all, but I'm still going to take points. And then -4 for the weak or dislikable supporting character, which excludes characters meant to be disliked. In this case, we have the anesthesiologist. I believe they called him Dr. Milton, but he's not really a major role except for the fact that he decides, despite being given a responsibility to keep the patient under so he doesn't, wake up, start moving, and is meant to be doing the intubation bag as somebody who is trained to do so, decides he's going to just up and leave this already panicky young, I believe she said herself she was 22 years old, paramedic in the room to basically devolve into a panic attack and almost kill herself and everybody in the room when she inevitably takes her hand out. And I think that's just a terrible thing to do. If you weren't willing to stay, to volunteer to stay, you should have said something. They could have seen if another anesthesiologist would volunteer to come in, or they might have left, someone who would volunteer, like maybe Meredith, because she offered to stay and be a part of the surgery from the start. For example, in there with her, someone who was willing to stay. If you weren't willing to stay, you should have spoken up when everybody was leaving, when everything was being settled, rather than leaving halfway through and then leaving a panicking 22-year-old alone with her hand in a body. I just think it was very, very well, like poorly done and handled, and just kind of like moral and unethical. If you didn't want to stay, I understand that. It's obviously a life-threatening situation, but you should have spoken up when you had the chance to speak up so that arrangements could have been made and the situation would not be able to devolve in the way that it did, and this person chose not to do that, which makes them, in my opinion, incredibly dislikable and weak. And therefore, that makes this a 9 out of 10 episode objectively. So our season 2 rankings so far, in first we have Make Me Lose Control, Into You Like a Train, Begin the Begin, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, Break On Through, Deny, 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 Thanks for the Memories. This episode comes in 8th, It's the End of the World. Enough is Enough, Something to Talk About, Let It Be, Much Too Much, Bring the Pain, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Owner of a Lonely Heart, and then in 16th is Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. This brings us to my personal ranking of the episode. And I very much enjoy this episode. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, one of the ones that sticks out as the most memorable. In the series, it's one that when I start watching, like rewatching Grey's Anatomy for the umpteenth time, I wait for this episode to come, and I'm always excited when I finally get close to it coming, and now we're here, and it's amazing, and it's great, and I love this episode. I even love the dramatic run that Krev does to get to the OR to inform Burke about the fact that there is a code black. I love how calm Burke is too. Like when he's informed that there is a bomb, he keeps his voice very calm. He talks through very reasonably. He's very reassuring. I think like if anybody was going to be the surgeon in that situation, I think I'm glad it was Burke because he handled it so well. And then Meredith, she wakes up. She feels like she's going to die that day. And then what does she do? She puts her hand inside of a body cavity with a live bomb, and even as she does it, she's like, "What did I do? What did I do? What did I do?" And it's like, well, you manifested your feeling. That's what you did. But overall, There's nothing about this episode that I personally think is worth personally taking points because while objectively, like I said, there was a really terrible character, some bad decisions, like some negative behaviors, it all adds to the drama, so that increases the entertainment value. And this is the personal ranking where entertainment value counts for more. So I gave it a 10 out of 10 because it is my favorite so far. And so, no surprise on our season 2 ranking so far in the personal ranking, it's in first place. It's The End of the World, followed by Make Me Lose Control, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Something to Talk About, Into You Like a Train, Break On Through, Deny, 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 Let It Be, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, Begin the Begin, Thanks for the Memories, Much Too Much, Enough is Enough, Bring the Pain, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and then in 16th so far is Owner of a Lonely Heart. And that now brings us to our series ranking so far. And season 1 on our mostly objective ended with 77.78%. And season 2 so far has 122 points out of 270. And then on our personal ranking, we have season 1 ending with 66.67%. And season 2 so far has 117 points. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 2, Episode 16. It's the end of the world. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.